Alright, hello people and welcome in today's video. So today I'll be showing you how you can create a modern looking website here at the end of 2018, start 2019, and you can find a link down in the description below to the source code, and also you can find a link to a live view on my on my website. And yeah, so if you're a beginner to HTML and SCSS and all that stuff, I recommend that you follow along with me typing out and explaining how stuff works. And if you have tried making websites before using HTML and SCSS, go ahead and take a look here and see if you can replicate it. And if you're unsure, come back to the video, see how I have done it, and do keep in mind that my code may not be the best way to go about things, so like, don't be upset with yourself if you do it in another way, because really there's no like right or wrong way to code HTML and SCSS. It all comes down to how like you personally do it, and yeah, keep that in mind. But of course it's a good thing to have the ability to read others' ways to write code. And with HTML and SCSS it's not really a problem, because like you can't, yes, in SCSS and CSS you can write fairly different ways on how to do stuff, but with the HTML there's not really many different ways to do stuff. But that's enough talking. I think we should just get started with the video. So yeah, let's just do it. Let's jump into it. I do just want to add that keep in mind the license for this website here is that you cannot use it for commercial use or in any way sell the code. You are allowed to use it for personal use if you do some changes to it, which of course you do, because you need to change up the like the text. So personal use, that's just fine, but commercial use or selling it and all that stuff is not allowed. Alright people, so let's get started. So first off, you want to go ahead and open up your favorite code text editor, or code editor, whatever. And I'm using Visual Studio Code, which is a open source program by Microsoft. So yeah, amazing, I know, right? Open source by Microsoft. But first off, you'll need to go ahead and open up the folder where you want to make your website with your text editor, and go ahead and create a dist folder, and create an assets folder and an index.html, and you can see the index is blank at the moment. In the assets folder, create a CSS folder, and images and JS, and I'm just using locally jQuery because we'll be needing jQuery to add the scroll animation stuff for later. So but you can also just grab it from the internet, and then make an SCSS folder in the master folder or whatever. So first off, you'll need npm, like a node package manager, and that comes with Node.js and stuff, which you can just download online, just search for it. So first off, we need to init to make a package.json file. So we'll go ahead and say npm init and say package name is fine, version fine, description is fine, just whatever, keywords author, we'll just type in Bobby Boyd, license C, license in license. Just do that and press OK. So now we have our package.json file, which is good. So here in the scripts, we'll just quickly set up the script so we can run it, even though we don't have it yet installed Node.js. We'll use that. We'll do that in just a minute, but we'll just put it in. So you can see here that we watch the dist folder here. So this is like, this directory here is where you want it to compile the CSS file into, and we want that to be in the dist assets and CSS. So that's fine. And then we want node.sas, so we'll say npm I for install, and then node-sas, just like that, and just give it a minute to install. Okay, there we go. So now we have SAS. Now don't ever mess or do anything with the node module files, because it's where all, you know, your node stuff is kept, and if you mess something up in this file, your stuff won't work, and yeah, it'll just be a big mess. But we want to go ahead and start typing in some HTML. So you can just do exclamation mark and hit tab, and that gives us like a standard template, which is what we just need. And in the title I'll just type just another modern website, and then I have opened live server, so you can see that it's running now, and whenever I type something in here and hit save, it automatically just comes in here. And of course this only works with HTML and not PHP. Alright, so this is all very nice. So now we can go ahead. So in here we'll create a main.scss file, and we'll create a what we'll call a underscore and then responsive, just like that, .scss responsive, and a config file. Okay, back again. So just go ahead and before you like hit the npm run, make the files first, because otherwise it won't like compile with them. You'll see what I mean. Alright, but let's put the HTML over here. So first off, to make it like, first off, I'll always put in a nice font. So this is Montserrat. It's a very common font, which many people are using, and it's like, it's very good. It's really great. And then we'll import our config file, and then the responsive file. There we go. And you can see here that it says file unreadable and stuff. That's because there's an error with Node.sas on Windows, where it like sometimes doesn't compile. You'll just have to press save a couple of times and it will save. But you can see that we can import like other CSS files by just using this import, and then we have the underscore, so it all works. And CSS is basically SCSS is basically like CSS with superpowers, because we can go in here in the config file. Let's set it up first. So we can define some colors, and the way we do that is just by going ahead and saying colors, and then we can say our primary color is going to be white. Then we can say we have a hover color, and that's going to be then we can use something called darken and lighten, but I'll only be using the darken, so we can say darken white, and then let's say 40%, excuse me, and then for now that's fine. Now you can also define functions with SCSS, and one of them is like, so we can say like define a, like use these colors. So the way we do that is say add function color and then color dash name, and then we want to return the, and then say map get, and then go in and pick the colors, and then the colors name. So just like that. Also, before we're done with the config file here, we'll make a mixin, which basically I will be using for a quick transform animation or transition to animate whenever we hover over links. So we'll just say all.3 seconds and ease out. And at last I'll remove this scroll bar. So just like that. Okay, so let's start by filling out all our HTML. This is like a good way to do it. If you're making a website, start by making the HTML and then the CSS, or you could like do it in sections, where you like, whenever you have a section of HTML, you define the style. But I'll just go ahead and quickly fill in some of our HTML. So first off, we're going to need a header. So we'll say header, and then we'll create a nav, and then you can just, if you type it and hit dot, you can add a class, and I'll add the scroll class and then hit tab. So with the scroll class, what that does is like later on we'll be making some JavaScript for the animations as you saw in the beginning of the video. So then we want to go ahead and make an unordered list and just create a normal nav bar here. So that's just going to be a href of intro, or just home, and just say home. Make another here called hashtag about, and go ahead here and we'll just say hashtag the, I don't know, team and team. Okay, so that's the header again. So you can see, oh, needs to be capital. There we go. Okay, so to start off, let's start with the first section, which we will just call home. So type section and then give it a hashtag for adding an ID, and we'll use home, and then we'll say dot to add a class, and we'll add the container class and the scroll class. Sorry, we need to say dot again here, and then scroll, hit tab. Then we'll put in a h1, which will be just another modern website, and like, let's say it's amazing, and then add in a href, which will be basically a link looking like a button. So we'll just say read more, and go ahead and put in a btn class. Alright, so now we need to add in the about class. So same procedure, section, hashtag to get the ID, dot to add the container class and the scroll class, and put in another h1, we'll call it about, and put in an h3, and let's say this is our about, and then we just want to put in some p tag, and I'll just fill in some random content. So we'll put in like I don't know, 60 words. That'll do, I think. Yeah, for now that's fine. And then let's do another h3, which is, we'll say like about this. Of course, I'm just filling in some template stuff, and then say lorem, and just put in like, so like, I don't know, 60 words. And maybe actually we'll just add 20 more words here. Okay, there we go. And again, down here at the bottom, go ahead and add a tag, which will be a read more button for the next section of the page. And don't miss the class, and say team. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead here and create the last section, and just going to say team, again, container class, scroll class, hit tab, hit enter, say team. For the h1, make a div with a class of team, and then make a div with a class of profile, and we'll put in just a href to nothing, and then we want to go ahead and make this a so all the profiles will just be like a link. So we'll go ahead and say image, and the source will be pointing to the assets folder, images avatar, and we'll just say me, and h3, where we'll say just right, I don't know, and put in some random text here. No, that's maybe too much. Okay, like that. And just go ahead and copy this down about 3 times, so we will just get an idea of how it will be looking. Then we want to go ahead and add the footer. So say footer, and then just go in and add a copy, which will be like a copyright sign, and then just say, I'll just say copyright.com, because it will, no, let's say just copyright, and just another, no, actually let's just go ahead and type in bobbybyte.com 2018, and then yeah, so yeah, that's fine. And down here we'll add some script tags, so we'll say source, and that will be first off our jQuery, and we'll just go ahead and add in the for the scroll animations. So we'll just, no, we'll actually just type it in our main, and this file doesn't exist yet, but we'll just go ahead here quickly and create it. Alright, nice. So now we have all the HTML done, so let's take a look, and it looks absolutely horrifying. But let's go ahead and start styling it. So first off, let's go ahead here and just start from the top. So the config is already done, so that's nice. So let's go ahead here in the body and say our font family will be so I'll just take it here, and it needs to go in like those two. Don't know what you call them in English. Sorry. Set the margin to 0, set the padding to 0, and then I'll go ahead and make sure that it's like for whichever like some browsers doesn't allow for the gradient effect and some do, so I'll just quickly go ahead and pick a color here on my other screen. So yes, we'll just say copy, paste it in. So that gives us a nice gradient, and you can find if you search on the web for these gradient generators, you can find them, and it's also how I made this here. And then we want to go ahead and say background attachment fixed, and the background to a no wait, let me see here. Yeah, there we go, no repeat. Our font size will set to 1 rem, which is equal to 16 pixels, and I want to have mine bold, so put in that, and the line height will say 1.6, and just to add in some letter spacing, I'll say 1.2 pixels, and then we'll say colors and color primary. So what this basically does, it's that it goes into the config file and says, oh, okay, so the primary color is white, and because of this function we can just say color and primary. So now we just want to go ahead and make one other thing, is to say we want to go ahead and say A and say hover, and then put in the a include tag, and then say ease out. So whenever we hover, we get the ease out transition, and also we'll say color hover. Nice, just like that. So let's go ahead and see if anything has changed here. So it hasn't changed anything, which is kind of weird. No, it's not, because we haven't added the we need to go up here and of course link the style sheet. So assets CSS main.css. There we go. There we go. So now we can see that we are starting to see a small change in the background color here, and the text has changed up a bit, so everything is looking a little bit more nice, but it's not even close to what we want. Alright, so let's go ahead and define the container. So we'll say margin 0, top and bottom, and then auto, which aligns the text in the middle, but just to be sure, we'll say text align center. and we'll give it a max width of 60%. So that wraps everything nicely in the middle. So that's how I like it. And then we'll go ahead and say define the button class. So let's go ahead here and say, okay, actually, you know what? We should go ahead here and create ourselves another CS. No, it doesn't matter, because it's like, if you're making a more than just a one-page scroller, it's generally a good idea to go ahead and create a file called sections, or at least that's what I do. So for every section, like, I have a SCSS file where I can like type all this stuff out. You'll see later on what I mean. So, but for now we'll just type it all in the main SCSS, sorry. Alright, but let's go ahead and define the button. So text decoration, sorry, want to set that to none, and we want to go ahead and say the color to be color primary. Yes, and say font size to be 1.4 rem, and the letter spacing will increase to 2.5 pixels, and I'll just copy over a box shadow here, and then let's go ahead and say the padding to 12 pixel, and the border radius is 45 pixel, and font I can't type here, and set that back to normal. And then we want to go ahead and do something which you can do with SCSS, which is basically take the button class we're under here and say whenever we hover. So this is basically like saying the button class and then hover, and then we want to say I don't think it's actually needed to add in the ease out animation because it should be here already, but we'll add in that background right there. So let's go ahead and take a look. So you can see that we now got a button here, and it, like, whenever we hover over links, it's like nicely animates. We can if we set this up a bit, you can see it better. Like, it's, you can see slowly coming in with the effect. So, but we'll set that back because don't want to waste too much time on animations. Alright, let's start by going ahead and getting the navbar done. So defining the navbar here in under the header. So we'll say margin top to 2 view height. So it adds some space at the top with 2 of the total view height, and view height and view width is something that you can use, and it's like if you imagine that the web page is like all you see here is like 100 view height, and then it basically adds 2 of those lines up here at the top. And with view width it's the same. You have 100 lines going across your screen, and then you can define it. And so when you resize the browser, it's also like recalculating. So it's very nice, but like in some cases it won't always be the best way to do stuff. Mostly it won't, but for some things that you'll also see later on, it will. But normally I would take this navbar and all this stuff, because this is like I would put it under a sections file, but now we'll just put it here in the main, because again it's just a one-page scroller, it's just a small project, and it's more to teach you guys about SCSS, how it works, how to use it, and yeah. So we'll say position fixed and the width is 100%. Then we want to go ahead and say list style none, and the color should already be set, so we don't need to do that. Say text decoration, set that to none, go ahead and add float and set it to float on the right side of the screen, and then we'll go ahead and use padding right, and again now I will use this view width view height stuff. So let's go here, set the li display in line and set a padding of 1 rem, and then let's go ahead here and say the A and say text decoration none. So this should be all. We just need to go ahead here and add the color primary. Should do the fix. No. Okay, well the hover color changes, so why don't you change? Oh, because I'm stupid. We'll add it in there. No, still not working. Why is that? Well, it shouldn't be. Yeah, okay. Of course, it's down here at the A. Sorry for that. Yeah, you can see everybody makes mistakes. And the hover color and all that stuff is working fine. So now I have a nice little navbar here. I'll actually just go ahead and add another here quickly. That will be source code, because this will be open source, so whenever I got the link I'll add it there. Okay, so, and you can see that the navbar here is fixed, so that's nice, just like we wanted. So let's go ahead and start like creating the actual site now. So we'll say home to take the home ID of this section, and set the height to 100 view height, so that's the whole screen. Padding top to 30 view height, and go in here and define the H1, and we want to say font size for rem, so that's 16 times 4, and go ahead, and the color is already defined, so I don't need to do that because we have that up here in our body tag. So right down here, H3, say font size to rem, just like that, and margin bottom to 10 view height, and save that. And there we go. Now we have the landing page, whatever. This is the first thing you see when you enter the site, and as you can see, it looks really nice. And I know that this button could be improved, but in general I think it's like it's fine. It looks it looks great. And let's go ahead and also do the same thing more or less with the about. So height 100 view height, padding top 10 view height, and take the H1, set the font size to 4 rem, and the margin bottom to 1 view height. The H3, go ahead and say font size 2 rem, and say margin bottom 6 view height, and margin top, remove that completely. And we want to go ahead with the P and say margin bottom 6 view height. There we go. Save that. So you can see right now it's just like a hard skip to the next page, but you can see here it looks very nice, and we can go ahead to the theme, and it's not ready yet. And also these buttons up here works, of course. Alright, so let's add the last one now. So we'll say hashtag team to take the ID of the team here, and go ahead and say height, and this time 90 view height, because we'll be adding the footer later, so we need room for that. Say H1, say font size for rem, and margin top, and set that to 0. So removing it. Image, set the width to 100%, and then we'll go ahead and use our like the CSS grid. So how do we do that? So first off, we go ahead and say dot team. So the dot team class here is to define what we want to put in the grid, and that is all these small divs here called profile. So we'll say dot team, and then we'll say display grid, and we'll add a grid gap of 1 rem, so 16 pixels. And why I'm saying 16 pixels is because the rem is calculated from the screen something, but in general it's almost every time 16 pixels. So we'll say grid template columns and set that to repeat, and then we want 3 and 1 FR like that, and save that. And then we'll say the profile, so we'll go profile, and this is also a class. And just to explain, so the difference between a class and an ID is typically something that you only use once, so we only use it once, and a class is something that you use over and over and over again. So yeah, that's basically the most, like, that's the explanation for it. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a hard time finding the right words, because as you probably can hear, English is not my mother language, or whatever you call it. I think that's the right way to say it. Yeah, and then we'll say H3 and set a font size of 1.2 rem, and go ahead here quickly and define the A. So text decoration none, and the color to be color primary, so white. And then we'll go ahead here and say whenever you hover, we want to include the ease out animation transition we have added, and say opacity to 0.8. And then we'll go ahead to say P and say font weight normal and margin, and then we'll just do 0.5 rem and 0.5 rem. And yes, and save this, and that should be, this needs to go actually just above here, and then we'll quickly just say footer and say font weight normal, text align, it's already aligned center, and then we'll say background, we'll add in that, and we'll say the A will be the color primary. Boom. Alright, let's take a look. So all looking very nice, very nice. Actually, am I missing something? No, it's all, yeah, okay. So it's all looking very nice and very clean, and you can see here, no, we actually do need to say here in the footer, sorry, we do need to say text line center. There we go. Then we can see we got it down here, so we'll just say copy right, just like that with a big, there we go. So nice, looking very nice. So now what's left to be done is just to add the animations and make it responsive. But just to show you guys how this grid works, if you're a bit confused, then basically if we go ahead here and add a few more profiles, you can see that it knows, okay, so I'm only allowed to display 3 of these items here, like the underclasses here, in one line, and then it puts in the grid gap that we have defined here. So yeah, if we add one more, sorry, over here, one more profile, you can see that it's automatically adding them in. So, but just move those. So that's how the grid system works, and you can see that whenever we hover or something. So we could of course make this go to anywhere we want. Alright, so let's go in, and what should we do? Let's just quickly put in the scroll animations, so those are in place. So I'll just copy and paste this. This is not some JavaScript that I have made. I have made minor changes, but if you've seen it anywhere, then that's probably why. So yeah, but with that added, you can see here that we have some very nice animations, and it's just looking very nice indeed, very nice. But let's go ahead and make it responsive. So to do that, we'll add a bunch of media queries, which is also why that we've imported them at last, because media queries you want to make sure is always loading at the end of the CSS file, otherwise it won't work. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll just quickly take some stuff here, put it in. What this means is that we take and make a media query, and if a max width of 480 pixels, we want to change the theme class here and say the grid columns, sorry, to 1, so it only displays 1 here. So let me just quickly demonstrate that. And then the important tag, because we'll have another one going in and overruling this, so just to make sure that whenever we hit 480 it goes down. So you can see here it goes down. I know this looks very crappy, but we'll fix it, don't worry. So okay, nice. So let's go ahead and add the next media query. So we'll say media screen and a max width of 960 pixels, and go ahead and set the container width to 80%, and the home we want to change the padding on the top to 15 view height, and we want to change some stuff here with the nav bar. So we'll say nav, and we'll say margin top 0, and position is already fixed, so no need to add that. The width is also, so basically what we'll need, I'll just paste it in here. So we got a background added to it, and then changing up the float so there's none, and aligning the text in the center, and adding some padding to the whole list. So just save that. Let's take a look. So if we go ahead here and see, we should see it. There we go. So you can see, and this is just, instead of using like a drop down and stuff, I think like now it's just like everybody uses drop downs, and it's like, it's understandable because they look great, and I also use it myself on my bobbybyte.com, but like just to make this quick and easy, I just added this up here, which is also like, I think it looks very nice, actually. Like it's a good way to, if you don't want to use drop downs, make something nice like this. And yeah, so I like, I don't know, I just think that drop downs isn't always necessary. Like for this page where it's like a static fixed position nav bar up here, doing this on a mobile is just fine. Okay, so as I was saying, I think it looks great with using this. So let's go ahead here and just get the final touches in. So we'll take the about and set the padding on the top to 5 view height, and set the height to 100%, and then we want to go ahead, say A, and display none, because then there's no room for the buttons. And then we'll go ahead and say hashtag T, and the hashtag means we're taking the ID, and then we'll say height 100%, and just before that we'll say team, and oh, remember this is the team class. So, and then we'll go ahead and say template columns repeat, and we'll change it to 2 and 1, just like that, and a footer, and then set the margin top to your height. Save a couple times. Alright, so now we should have a full complete website. So we can see very nice landing page, looks nice. We can say read more, read the about stuff, go to the team, see who's in it, and we can see our nice copyright footer. We can also use up here, say about and home, and everything just works nice. And if we try to make it responsive, we can see, oh, something changed here, just a tiny bit. And we go even further to here. We can see that we can say read more, read the about, and then there's no button here because there's not really room for it, and we can see that this has changed to only allow 2 to be here, like 2 of these profile items here. Then if we go completely down to mobile, we can see on the home still have to read more, and we can scroll down and read the whole about, and this scrolling here of course also works. Now you may find some bugs and errors, but in general I just made this fairly quickly, and I think it looks great. It's a nice looking modern website. Yeah, so that's it for this video. I think it looks nice, so yeah, if you people enjoyed the video, make sure to yeah, you know what, you probably heard it about 100 times or 1,000 times already. You know what to do, and if you have any questions about something, leave it down in the comments below. And if you want to support me, help me, go ahead and follow my Twitter and my Twitch, where I sometimes do development streams, but of course also do gaming, and that's twitch.tv/BobbyBite, and links is also down in the description below. And that's basically about it. So now there's only one thing to say, and that is I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.